And now episode 4. But to properly set up episode 4, we got to go back to episode 3. So let me read one paragraph, and here it goes. Bailey raises her head slowly, wipes her eyes as another tear eludes her hand and drops conspicuously to the ground below. She looks up briefly at his eyes as he continues. 1 hour was equal to 30 days in Nottingham. Remember, Bailey? Think about this. A 24-day is equivalent to 2 years in Nottingham. Bailey, it's been 7 days now. That's 14 years. Your husband and daughter and the others have been trapped in Nottingham. Do you understand? 14 years. Bailey begins to tear as the realization of what he is saying as it becomes crystal clear to her. John refuses to let up and keeps pushing the matters with a kind, gentle persuasion of a close friend. He moves closer to her and with an even softer voice says, Do you really want to put it off another day? Knowing that for them it'll be another 2 years? And what about another week? Should we wait and think about this, not just knowing it will be another 14 years for them? Is that what you want? Concludes John mildly, knowing he's making his point very clear. Bailey finally surrenders. As she shakes her head, she moves over to the table and sits down and begins to cry, uncontrollably, in defeat. Bailey wails, snaps as Dean comes out of his self-imposed exile, stands up encouraged, and walks over to a sympathetic, sullen Captain John Leroy Seaforth. He looks up to a standing Dean and says to him unyieldingly, We need to tell her everything. Everything, Dean. I think it's the only way she'll fully cooperate with us. And then now we're at chapter 3. And there's our picture, Bailey's big decision. And there you see the big decision. Ends. He inhales deeply and reflects briefly on what he is to say. He begins slowly. I'm not sure how much you already know, so I'll try to tell you the most relevant information about what we face. The planet Nottingham at one time has had 5 species of life, sentient life. 2 species we believe are extinct. A 3rd species is supposed to arrive in some fashion as saviors, like a messiah. The 2 species we know and have had dealings with are called the Tesnus and the Dracosorbs. The arrival of the 3rd species is called, by the Dracosorbs, the Glowing Ones. According to their ancient writings, they are thought to be the future saviors of the planet. Some believe their arrival will be a catalyst for starting a great war between the 2 last species that will eliminate both of them. This fear of concern of both species has always been something that we've had to deal with over the years. This legend or their ancient texts always warned them about traveling merchants sporting gifts. In time, it became clear to some that it was the humans coming from through the gateway, or what they called the Eye, were those merchants who would ultimately corrupt them and lead them to their destruction. Within recent days, before we had to escape Nottingham, the Dracosorbs were the ones who were trying to manipulate the Tesnus in expelling us from the planet. Thank God the Tesnus would not listen to them, at least at first. We had something that they wanted and needed that was a huge advantage to us. The Drats were determined to punish us no matter what. Before we knew it, we were shut down and everybody was given the order to evacuate. The Teslas were powerless to stop them and abandoned us. Before we knew it, the ground started to shake and volcanic eruptions began everywhere again. You remember that time. That's the time when you returned back to the earth. John speaks up and says grimly, it was a terrible reminder of what Brady, Dean, and I experienced was an active volcanic back in Gomo, South America. Bailey nods and says, I remember Brady talking about that as well, and what a terrible experience it was when we entered the Sticky City program. John nods his head in acknowledgement as he continues, yes, that's what made the next 2 days so taxing. Dean and I were one of the few that managed to escape through one of the gateways before they were destroyed. Everybody else did not, including your husband and daughter. Many of our people escaped too. Then, yesterday morning, something terrible happened. Garrett and Nathan Torres returned to Earth as well and found us. They convinced us we needed to return to Notland as well to bring order to the planet. The ancient scrolls said that the unity could only be achieved when the serpent is returned to paradise and must renounce his sin to the glowing ones. The serpent is believed to be primarily Dean Fitzpatrick. He was the merchant who brought them the gift of addiction, the Redlands. How does this involve me? Why can't you just go back with them? Asked Bailey. We wish we could, but it's simply not possible, answered John. Why not? Asked Bailey simply. John casts aside, looks at Dean and says, Bigfoot. They brought with them another Bigfoot. It was the only way they could return as well. The plan was to bring both of us back but the Matrix was unstable for all four of us to go back with them. So they left us behind. Bailey looks confused at them as John continues. Do you remember what I told you about your superpower matrix? How it was similar to Garrett's, the shadow shooter? Bailey casts a sign as she says with painful awareness, yes. That is because of me being the time-out hero, right? Dean's agitation and John's discomfort is evident as John supplies with a professional tone and custom fits his usual respectful etiquette with her. That's quite right, Miss Wilder. Dean begins to mull over in his mind, and Bailey can see simmering like a hot pan of water, waiting to boil over. He suddenly jumps up from his sitting position from the table, angry, and angrily marches into the kitchen and begins to make himself another drink. Not responding or acknowledging Dean's spirited exit, John explains, Mr. Fitzpatrick believes the real reason things have gone bad is his business and has been sabotaged by the super soldiers, especially by the one called the General. Our lives were in danger if we stayed. The crisis was created by the General to leave so that he could take over the manufacturing of the Redlands that both species crave and were willing to do just about anything for that product. The General convinced Dean that he was going to need some extra protection in case the glowing ones did return and tried to stop him. The General had offered to protect his empire of Notland for 40% of the profit. Dean refused his offer and insisted he continued on with the program the way that they had agreed. Before they knew it, we were forced to go through the eye back to Earth as it was destroyed behind us. We could no longer return. When we sought out the other gateways on Earth, they were also terminated. Remember, It's been over 14 years on Notlim now. Your husband and the others have been trapped there as well. Who knows what could have happened to them by now? Dean returns from the other room and says, "You're going to have to make a decision quick, Miss Wilder. I just picked up on my pocket scanners that the police are on their way." "Here? Why?" asked Bailey. "Too much to explain right now," replies John dispassionately. "Let's just say that some people do not want us to succeed. If we are caught or stopped, we most likely will go to jail here on Earth for a very, very long time." But, I don't understand. "What do you want me to do?" replies Bailey sheepishly. "Follow my lead," says John as John I've lost my place. As he follows Dean to the front window and carefully peeks through the curtains. "Great. They're just outside. We better act fast before they move for position and take us out." "Come on, Bailey," says John as Dean quickly follows. When they enter the room, Bigfoot is agitated. He gets to his feet and begins to growl quietly. His soft growl begins to tail off as his eyes make contact with Bailey. She notices the beast suddenly becomes gripped with a strange kind of peace and longing the longer he keeps looking at her. "Why is he looking at me like that?" asked Bailey, touching her own chest with her fingers of her right hand. "Because he thinks of you as his mate," says Dean, snappily. "What? His mate?" says Dean, with disbelief. "Don't be too concerned about that right now. He will find his mate soon enough. You see, when Garrett and the others' dimensions shifted here on Earth, they used the female Bigfoot to do that. His female, we believe. You will have to link with him similarly so we can all dimension jump." "Link? Me and him?" I don't understand the sound of that, clutching again her own breast. And there's the picture. With no warning, gas canisters come screaming through the window, breaking the glass and filling the room with smoke and tear gas. Then a boom voice from a loudspeaker demanding for them to come out with their hands up or they will not be hurt. "This is crazy. What are they doing?" shouts Bailey with great peril. "They think we're terrorists. That's why they are shooting first and asking questions later." "Maybe we should just surrender and explain to them. They're bound to listen to reason," implores Bailey as her hands begin to shake. "Trust me, Bailey, they won't. We know these people. There is too much involved here that we can't explain. Our friend is our only choice," says John with assurance. Another shattering of glass from a nearby window sends light and smoke coruscating mercilessly to the trio. The room begins to beckon with a melting darkness as the air becomes more difficult to breathe and almost impossible to function. Seconds later, another canister follows the former as it too adds more wood to the fire of desperation. Bigfoot yells out in a large roar of panic, "Ah!" as John and Dean both gesture for him to calm down. Dean throws up her hands over the mouth in an effort to breathe as the gas seems to head into the room like a juggernaut. Her eyes begin to water, and the beast begins to notice with curiosity how she is responding. She wipes her eyes and looks up to the tall, hairy creature and makes brief eye contact. The beast is immobilized for a few seconds as it stares at her, becoming unmovable. John buries his mouth in a handkerchief as relief, as well as he gently nudges Bailey and says, When I tell you to do it, I want you to reach out your hand out to him and touch him. Don't spook him. He's going to transport us back to Notlam. Touch him? Says Bailey with credulity. It's the only way. He needs to be touching you to make this thing happen, replies John between coughs. As the smoke continues to build, Dean thrusts a photograph in Bailey's hand and says, "Hurry! Show him the picture! Show him the picture!" Wait a minute. You said the Matrix did not work the last time when Garrett, Torres, and the other Bigfoot brought you all back. Why will it work for us this time? Trust us, it will. There are only 3 of us this time and not 4. Here, take the photograph now. Bailey takes the picture in her hand and quickly sees that it's the land of Notlam with its 5 suns shining brilliantly in the sky. Bailey holds at him, puzzled. Trust me, Bailey, he will understand, he entreats John with his usual dignity, despite the panic situation that is building. I'm going to drop the force field. As soon as I do, hold the picture to his face and grab onto his arm. He's going to panic as soon as he smells the gas and will dimension whip us out of here in seconds. Don't be alarmed. We have the situation in control. Bailey takes a deep breath and nods. Okay. She understands nervously. I'm going to put my hand on your shoulder, and Dean is going to hold on to mine as well. Then we will all be transported back to Notlam. Do you understand? Bailey nods yes and gulps down her last bit of Earth's tainted air, smiles weakly and says with apprehension, I understand. Go ahead. Suddenly, more gas comes rushing in. The front door is kicked open by the police. Bigfoot again becomes even more disjointed with his own escalating anxiety and lets out a loud roar as the swarm team enters the room. Now, shouts Dean as he removes the remote from his pocket and pushes the button. The door room spikes with electrically charged eddies that tickle the hairs of Bailey's head as the opaque force field drops. The first thing that hits Bailey is the strong smell of the beast. The stench is so gripping that it easily empowers the tear gas smell in the living room and almost makes her forget about the task at hand. Bailey holds the picture out in her face and instructs a forced smile on him. Before he can reach out to him, he grabs onto her hand with the picture. Her knees buckle, her stomach drops, and her head, in all one motion, begins to swim. Another explosion seemingly pushes John and Dean into the beast as well. The room squeals with horrific sounds and then becomes flooded with a brilliancy of light and disappear. The police rush in only to find discarded paper cups, newspaper clipping, and nothing else. They are stymied as they all look for evidence of their escape and begin to expand this escape route. And that brings us to Chapter 4, The Return to Notlam. That'll be the next episode, folks. I hope you enjoyed this. This is an exciting read, and I took some liberties with some of the sound effects. It's not really in the book. But anyway, thank you for looking at it, and please share it with everybody. Thanks.